Venezuela is currently on high alert as a significant U.S. military presence, including F-35 fighter jets, warships, and thousands of Marines, surge into the Caribbean region. In response to what it perceived as a direct threat to its national sovereignty and security, President Nicolás Maduro's government has mobilized a substantial force of 25,000 troops and has activated 284 coastal battlefronts across its extensive coastline. This robust military posture is a direct counter to Washington's conspicuous show of force, which has positioned U.S. stealth jets in Puerto Rico and deployed naval assets to the strategic waters surrounding Venezuela. The rapid and comprehensive military buildup by both nations has transformed the Caribbean into its most dangerous military standoff in years, raising profound concerns across the international community about the potential for a catastrophic clash. The escalating tensions stem from a complex interplay of political, economic, and strategic factors, including U.S. support for Venezuela's opposition, Washington's long-standing calls for democratic reform, and Venezuela's deepening alliance with U.S. adversaries. The deployment of advanced military hardware, particularly the F-35 fighter jets, underscores the seriousness of the U.S. intent to project power and influence in a region traditionally considered within its sphere of influence. While Venezuela's swift and massive mobilization demonstrates its unwavering resolve to defend its borders against any perceived foreign aggression, the precarious nature of this standoff means that any miscalculation or accidental encounter could rapidly escalate beyond diplomatic control, triggering a conflict with severe regional and potentially global ramifications. The eyes of the world are now fixed on the Caribbean, waiting to see if this unprecedented military concentration will lead to a direct confrontation or a tense de-escalation. The deployment of U.S. F-35 fighter jets to Puerto Rico represents a significant escalation in the regional power projection strategy. The F-35 is one of the most advanced stealth fighter aircraft in the world, capable of both air superiority and ground attack missions with unparalleled precision and survivability in contested airspace. Stationing these assets in Puerto Rico, a U.S. territory, placed them within striking distance of Venezuela's mainland and its strategic assets. This move sends a clear message of military capability and readiness from Washington, indicating a willingness to use high-end military assets to achieve its strategic objectives or deter perceived threats. The presence of F-35 allows for extensive reconnaissance, surveillance, and potential strikes operations across a wide area without being easily detected by conventional radar systems. This technological advantage would significantly complicate any defense efforts by Venezuela, whose air force largely consists of older generation aircraft. The strategic choice of Puerto Rico as a forward operating base for these jets not only provides logistical advantage, but also reinforces the U.S. commitment to maintain its security interests in the wider Caribbean basin. The jets serve as a formidable deterrent, but also as a potential instrument for aggressive action, depending on how the political and military standoff evolves. Their deployment inevitably heightened the sense of impending conflict in Caracas, contributing to the decision for mass mobilization of Venezuelan forces. Accompanying the advanced aerial assets, the surge of U.S. warships and thousands of Marines into the Caribbean signifies a robust and multifaceted military presence. Warships ranging from destroyers and cruisers to amphibious assault ships carrying Marines provides a comprehensive array of capabilities, including naval blockade, anti-submarine warfare, air defense, and the capacity to launch amphibious landing. The presence of Marine indicates a readiness for potential ground operation, including special force mission, raids, or even larger-scale intervention if deemed necessary. This naval deployment, coupled with air power, established a formidable posture that could effectively impose a maritime blockade on Venezuela, disrupt its sea lines of communication, or project power directly onto its coastline. The combined force is designed to demonstrate overwhelming military superiority and to signal that the U.S. has the capacity and will to enforce its interests in the region. For Venezuela, this represents an existential threat, as its economy heavily relies on maritime trade, particularly oil export and import of essential goods. The psychological impact of such a visible and powerful naval presence so close to its shore is immense, undoubtedly playing a crucial role in President Maduro's decision to activate a large portion of his military. The deployment also served as a training exercise for U.S. force, enhancing their readiness and interoperability in complex operational environment, while simultaneously applying significant pressure on the Venezuelan government. In direct response to this significant U.S. military buildup, Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro has initiated a massive mobilization of 25,000 troops. This is not a minor defensive measure. It represents a substantial commitment of personnel signaling America's determination to meet any potential aggression with a unified and prepared defense. The mobilization likely involved a call-up of reserve, deployment of regular army units to strategic locations, and potentially increased readiness for the National Bolivian Armed Force, FANB, across all branches. The sheer number of troops indicates a readiness for sustained defensive operations, encompassing coastal defense, internal security, and potentially countering any ground incursion. Such a large-scale mobilization places considerable strain on national resources, logistics, and command structure. But it also sends a powerful message of defiance and national unity to both domestic and international audience. It communicates that Venezuela is not willing to back down in the face of U.S. military pressure and is prepared to defend its territorial integrity with force. The deployment of these troops would be focused on key strategy points, including urban centers, critical infrastructure, and potential invasion routes, aiming to present a robust deterrent to any external military action. The readiness of these forces would involve heightened patrols, defensive fortifications, and intensified training exercise to ensure their operational effectiveness in a potential hostile environment. Complementing the troops' mobilization, Venezuela has activated 284 coastal battlefronts. This extensive activation of coastal defenses reflects the strategic importance of Venezuela's long Caribbean coastline, which is vulnerable to naval approaches and potential amphibious landing. Each battlefront likely represents a designated sector or area along the coast equipped with defensive capabilities, which could include anti-ship missile batteries, coastal artillery, radar surveillance systems, and dedicated military units tasked with repelling maritime invasion. The activation of such a large number of battlefronts suggests a decentralized and layered defense strategy, aiming to cover the entire coastline and deny easy access to any invading force. This comprehensive approach is designed to make any U.S. naval or amphibious operation prohibitively costly and complex. Venezuela has invested in coastal defense systems, including some acquired from allies like Russia and China, which are specifically designed to counter naval threats. The activation of these battlefronts would involve deploying these systems to their operational positions, ensuring their readiness, and integrating them into a centralized command and control network. This extensive defense posture aims to deter aggression by demonstrating that Venezuela is not only willing but also prepared to engage militarily to protect its maritime borders and coastal cities. The sheer scales of this activation underscores the seriousness with which Caracas views the U.S. military buildup and its commitment to defending its sovereignty. This confluence of military buildups has plunged the Caribbean region into its most dangerous military standoff in years. The presence of such significant and advanced military assets from both the U.S. and Venezuela in close proximity creates an extremely volatile environment. The potential for miscalculation or accidental engagement is high. A single unattended incident, a skirmish between patrol boats, an accidental crossing of airspace, or a radar lock-on interpreted as an act of aggression could rapidly spiral into a full-blown conflict. The stakes are incredibly high, not just for the two countries directly involved, but for the entire region, which relies on stability for its economic and social well-being. A military conflict between the U.S. and Venezuela would have devastating humanitarian consequences, disrupt global energy markets, and destabilize an already fragile geopolitical landscape. Regional neighbors are likely observing these developments with profound concern, as any large-scale conflict could spill over their borders, leading to refugee crisis, economic disruption, and heightened security risk. The standoff also represents a significant challenge to international diplomacy and crisis management, as efforts would be needed to de-escalate tensions and find a peaceful resolution. The very visible nature of these deployments means that both sides are demonstrating their resolve not just to each other, but to their domestic audience and their broader international community, making it difficult for either to back down without appearing to concede. The underlying political tensions fueling this standoff are complex and deeply entrenched. The United States has long been critical of President Maduro's government, accusing it of authoritarianism, human rights abuse, and undermining democratic institutions. Washington has recognized opposition leaders Juan Guaido as the legitimate interim president of Venezuela and has implemented extensive economic sanctions aimed at pressuring Maduro to step down. From the U.S. perspective, the military buildup could be seen as a way to increase pressure on Maduro, deter further destabilizing actions in the region, or even provide a military option if diplomatic and economic pressure fell. Conversely, Venezuela views these actions as a continuation of U.S. imperialist policies aimed at regime change and controlling its vast oil reserve. Americans often portray the U.S. as an external aggressor seeking to overthrow a sovereign government, a narrative that resonates with many in Latin America who recall past U.S. intervention in the region. This ideological clash, coupled with strategic interests and economic competition, forms the volatile backdrop against which the current military standoff is unfolding. The long history of animosity and distrust between the two nations means that each side interprets the other actions through a lens of suspicion, further exacerbating the potential for conflict. The question of whether this Caribbean buildup will trigger a clash remains open and deeply concerning. While both sides likely prefer to avoid a full-scale military conflict due to its unpredictable and devastating consequences, the sheer proximity and scale of their respective deployments significantly increase the risk. Miscalculation and unintended incident or deliberate provocation could rapidly escalate beyond control. The U.S. objective might be deterrence or coercion, aiming to force a change in Venezuela's political landscape without direct military intervention. However, such large-scale shows of force always carry the inherent risk of unintended consequences. Venezuela's objective is clearly to demonstrate its capacity and will to defend itself, hoping to deter a direct attack. The critical juncture will be how both sides manage their forces and communications in the coming days and weeks. Diplomatic channels, if active, would be working intensely behind the scenes to de-escalate the situation, but the public rhetoric and military posture suggest a high degree of resolve on both sides. The international community, including regional bodies, will likely be calling for restraint and dialogue to avert a potentially catastrophic conflict. The ultimate outcome hinges on the strategic decisions made in Washington and Caracas, and the effectiveness of their respective deterrents in a period of unprecedented military tension in the Caribbean. That's all for me for today. If you like the video presentation and you would like to follow for more, hit that subscribe and like button now, and we will continue to build this show for you. Thank you to all of you guys who have subscribed. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. I will see you soon. Bye for now.